All right. Once again, thank you for joining me today. I'm Eric Brab. I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment and Admissions for UNMC's College of Public Health. So appreciate you taking the time to join me this evening as we discuss a little bit about options to fund your graduate program, as well as talk a little bit about the application, some tips on strengthening your application, and then there'll be plenty of time to answer any questions that you may have. As we go through the presentation, if you think of a question, feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat. That way you don't possibly, when we get to the Q&A at the end, forget what you want to ask. So feel free to pop any questions in the chat at any time. So kind of starting out, talking first about kind of application tips. So all of our programs, we use centralized application service. So we have three different application services that we use depending on program. So we use Sophus, HAMCAS, and Sophus Express. So Sophus is where our MPH, MHA, our MS in Biostatistics, our Doctor of Public Health program, and our PhD programs are housed. HAMCAS is another way to apply for the MHA program, and Sophus Express are where our certificates, our dual degrees, and our non-degree applications are. I've also listed each one. Each one does come with an application fee. UNMC for College of Public Health, we do not have a supplemental application. So the only application you will need to submit is, depending on the program, is either through Sophus, HAMCAS, or Sophus Express. Each application service does have an application fee that I've noticed there. So specifically addressing the MHA program, since there's two different ways to apply for the MHA, if you are applying for the MHA program, and that is the only program you're applying for, HAMCAS is going to be your most cost-effective option, since their application fee is $130 as opposed to $155. We do have students that apply for MHA and also apply for MPH because they're still trying to decide kind of which direction they want to go. If that is what you are planning on doing, Sophus is going to be your best option because Sophus discounts the second application down to $65. So if you're doing MHA and MPH, you'll want to apply through Sophus, just MHA, HAMCAS. Other than that, you'll use the application service designated for the program that you are applying for. So with the application fee, we get asked quite a bit if we have coupon codes, do we have fee waivers? So as far as waiving the application fee, the application services are the only ones that can actually waive the fee since it's charged by them and not us. They all do have fee waiver processes in place. You can reach out directly to them to see if you qualify for a fee waiver. As far as coupon codes, we unfortunately do not have any coupon codes we can offer that will cover the cost of the application fee. So any fee waiver request, you would want to reach out directly to either Sophus, HAMCAS, or Sophus Express, depending on what you're applying for, to see if you qualify for a fee waiver. If you have detailed questions about fee waivers, or if you possibly may qualify, you could reach out to us and we can give you the information from their help page that will outline what those qualifications are. So talking first about our Sophus and our HAMCAS applications, because both of those application services work very similar. So all the required materials for the program you would be applying for will be sent to either Sophus or HAMCAS. So all official transcripts from prior institutions are required. You'll upload a copy of your resume or CV. We do not require the GRE there, except for one of our PhD programs. Our PhD in Health Services and Policy Research is the only program that requires the GRE. GRE is optional for everything else that we have. And for that PhD program, if someone is applying for that PhD program, there are GRE waiver possibilities available. You would just reach out to us and we can give you the information on how to apply for a GRE waiver. Then you'll also upload a personal statement. Um, for students whose primary language is not English, and if they do not have a degree from either a previous U.S. institution or a institution from a country whose only primary language is English, we would need TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo English proficiency scores. If you have questions, if you're not quite sure whether or not you would need to submit those and you have questions about that, just reach out to us and we can let you know whether we can waive the English proficiency requirement or will require one of those exams. And then you will also submit 3 letters of recommendation from either academic or professional sources. So all these program materials will be submitted directly through Sophos or HAMCAS. And then when you submit your application, that's when we'll have access to all of this. With Sophos and HAMCAS also, they have what's called professional transcript entry. So any transcripts that are US transcripts, Sophos and HAMCAS for their verification process require that all the classes from your previous schools are also listed out and entered in the system. So you can do that yourself at no cost. It just takes some time, obviously some time to do that. If you're not wanting to take the time to list out those each class that you have taken for each school, Sophos and HAMCAS also have what's called professional transcript entry for a fee. They will enter those courses for you. And then I've listed out here what they typically charge. So if you have 1 to 3 transcripts and you want them to enter the classes for you, they're going to charge $85. 4 to 6 transcripts, 110. 7 or more transcripts, 160. So once again, you can take the time to enter those in yourself at no additional cost. If you're wanting them to do it, then they are going to charge a fee for doing that. And that is a required part of the centralized applications for their verification process. For Sophos Express, so Sophos Express works a little bit differently. So for the admission requirements for the programs that are in Sophos Express, you're still going to need official transcripts from all prior institutions. You're going to upload a copy of your resume or CV, your personal statement, the English proficiency scores if required. Depending on the program, whether it's a certificate or one of the dual degrees, you will be submitting 2 to 3 letters of recommendation depending on the program. Where Sophos Express is different than the other 2 application services, Sophos Express doesn't accept the official transcripts. On your Sophos Express application, you'll be able to load copies of unofficial transcripts. So that way, when you submit the application, they'll be there for our review. And then your official transcripts, you will order to send directly to us at UNMC's College of Public Health. And they can be sent electronically at that email address that we list there. So once again, when you submit your application, you'll just upload unofficial transcripts and then order officials to be sent directly to us. And if you don't have copies of unofficial transcripts, that's fine. You can submit your applications through Sophos Express without uploading transcripts and just order your officials to be sent directly to us. When we receive them, we'll load them on your application for you. Now, some information about personal statement. So just some kind of tips and tricks to the personal statement. So each program, whether it's a certificate, PhD, DRPH, master programs, is going to require a personal statement of intent. Typically, they're going to want, why you're applying for that, why you're applying for the program, why you feel you'll be successful. Career goals are typically what's in there. Each personal statement, depending on the program you're applying for, is going to have instructions. Some are going to have, like our DRPH program, will have a list of questions that they want to see addressed. It'll let you know for our MPH program, it'll say in 500 to 700 words, cover, why MPH, why specifically that concentration, what your career goals are. a self-assessment of why you feel you're ready for graduate level coursework. Um, but PhD programs will typically want to know, what your research interests are. Um, they'll ask for you to list a couple of faculty members that match your research interest to help with that mentorship matching, things of that nature. But the instructions will be there. You'll want to just make sure you're following those instructions. Um, your personal statement, you want to be clear and concise. This isn't just something you want to just kind of throw together, type out, but we usually recommend kind of start with an outline, organize your thoughts to avoid, rambling in certain areas, things of that nature. And then make sure that this typically goes without saying, but I've seen it enough that I always make sure I cover this also. Make sure that you're proofreading and you're confident with your final product before uploading the application. Some typical mistakes we see on the personal statement, because most students are applying to multiple schools. So you may be applying to us, University of Minnesota, Iowa, Johns Hopkins, wherever you're applying. When you're uploading your personal statement, please make sure that you are checking that and that your personal statement that you're submitting to UNMC is not addressed and talks about how excited you are to apply for the University of North Carolina program, things of that nature. So it's fine to apply to multiple programs. You should apply to multiple programs. You should apply to where you feel you are a good fit and where you want to go. But uploading a personal statement addressed to the wrong school, kind of the first thing that the faculty see is lack of attention to detail. So as you can see, it's not the fact that you're applying to multiple programs, it's the fact that you uploaded a personal statement for a wrong school. Things of that nature. Definitely spelling and grammar count. So make sure you are proofreading that, to make sure. Just think of it as you're submitting a paper for a grade, because a lot of the programs do not have interviews. So that personal statement is kind of your interview. Our PhD programs are really the only programs that do interviews. So the masters, the DRPH certificates, your personal statement pretty much is your interview for the program. One thing I will mention with the personal statement as well, we are more than happy to give you feedback on your personal statement before you submit it on your application. So if you would like us to now we of course will not tell you what to put on the personal statement. It's your statement. So, but we are more than happy to kind of take a look at it and give you feedback on, making sure that you've addressed everything that they're looking for. Whether we think, a certain area could be stronger, or point out anything that we catch that you may want to rethink. So just throwing that out there, we're more than happy to do that. All of our admissions team, our contact information, I'll have that for you at the end of this presentation. So that way you can feel free to forward us any personal statement you want us to give you feedback on before you submit it. Because the thing is, once you upload this personal statement on your application, it's on the application. Even if, say, because we've had it before where someone uploads a personal statement, they catch a mistake on it, and then they forward us an updated personal statement directly. We'll supply the updated statement to the review committee. So that way they see the new statement, but they're still going to see the old one too, because that's a permanent part of your application once you submit it to SOFAS. So feel free to reach out to us to get that feedback first. We're more than happy to do that. And then letters of recommendation. You're looking for individuals who can speak to your academic practice and or research abilities. Ideally, obviously, recent professors, researchers, employers. If you've been, if it's been more than a couple years since your previous degree, it is fine to have all professional references. That is fine. We completely understand, because we get students coming back from master's programs that they completed their bachelor's 10 years ago. Obviously, they're not still, a lot of times not still in contact with those professors. it's fine to use all professional references in those situations. Typically, if you've just finished a program maybe a year or two ago, it's nice to have at least one from an um, academic source. Um, and then as you're requesting recommenders, it's we strongly recommend you have a conversation with your recommenders prior to them submitting letters. The example I always use when we ask someone to write a recommendation letter for us and they say yes, we typically assume that they're going to give us a good letter of recommendation. We have had situations that unfortunately that is not always the case. I have seen recommendation letters come in where the recommender actually did not recommend the student for the program. They stated concerns on whether or not they felt they were a good fit. And as you can imagine, you receive a recommendation letter that is not recommending you for the program, that can definitely damage the application. So to have conversations with these guys, make sure that they understand why you're applying for the program, why you feel that you're a good fit. The more the because the folks that are writing these letters for us are very busy. They're either professors, supervisors, things of that nature. So the more they know about why you're wanting to do this and why you feel you'd be successful. They're kind of check marking kind of boxes in their head. Yes, I agree. I can see him doing this. And you're really helping to guide your letter. But definitely have those conversations when you're submitting those. And then rolling into tuition and funding options for our programs. So current tuition rates. So we have different classifications of programs. We have professional programs and programs that are in our Office of Graduate Studies. So our professional programs are like MPH certificate programs. So our on-campus tuition. Um, Nebraska resident, 577 a credit hour. Non-resident, 1,401 per credit hour. For Master of Science Biostatistics and our PhD programs, in-state tuition on campus, 439 a credit hour, out of state, 1222. Our online programs do not charge out-of-state tuition. Any program that is online, we don't differentiate between in-state and out-of-state. So online programs, all the online programs are 686 per credit hour. And then the DRPH is a little bit higher. The doctoral program, which is an online program, that one is 744 per credit hour. But again, we don't charge out-of-state tuition. So like if you're an MPH program or going for an MPH program and you're not a Nebraska resident and you're okay doing online classes, um, you can have a tremendous cost savings by doing it online, as opposed to coming to campus, paying 1,401 per credit hour, and doing the same program just in an online fashion at about half the cost at 686 a credit hour. Now, and whether you're online or on campus, it's a personal preference. Some people would rather be on campus, some would rather be online. If you are a non-resident on-campus student, you do have the option to take some of your classes online. You can do it in a hybrid format. And any class that you take in an online fashion, even if you're a non-campus student, you will get the lower tuition for the online classes. And then different funding options. So all of our programs are eligible for federal financial aid. So graduate level coursework, federal financial aid is basically student loans through the FAFSA. Excuse me. And when we say all programs are eligible, that includes our certificate programs. You can take federal financial aid for those programs. We have scholarship availability once, and I'll go into a little more here in a minute about applying for scholarships and things of that nature. Assistantships due to worker positions available. PhD students are admission to a PhD program automatically comes with an assistantship. That's going to cover your tuition, fees, pays a monthly stipend, covers your student health benefits. So for master students, assistantships can be applied for. They're not automatically awarded to master level students. Only the PhD students automatically get those with an admissions offer. But then around July 1st each year, open assistantship positions and student worker positions are posted for master students to be able to apply. So if you apply and are awarded an assistantship, kind of works the same way. It's going to cover tuition, fees, pay a monthly stipend. Student worker positions are much like assistantships as far as like what you're doing, working as a research assistant, things of that nature. But they're typically paid at an hourly rate instead of an automatic tuition waiver. And then some of our students use tuition reimbursement from their employers. I would say no matter where you're working, if you haven't checked, definitely check to see if your employer has tuition assistance reimbursement available. Because some folks just assume their employer does not, but they actually do. So definitely want to check on that. And then some students will, they may have a partial scholarship and they're paying the rest of it on their own. So there's also self-payment options. Tuition is typically charged by each semester, depending on how many classes you register for. So tuition bills are typically due 2 weeks after a semester starts. But there are also payment options available where you can split the payment over the semester up into 3 or 4 payments. So different options to be able to fund the programs. And then talking a little bit more about scholarships. So once a student is admitted into one of our programs, they get access to our scholarship application about a week and a half later, once admitted. There is no charge to fill out the scholarship application, and we have one application that students complete that allows us to review you for all open opportunities within the college. So it's not like you have to find individual scholarships within the College of Public Health and apply to each one. You just fill out the scholarship application, it goes to our scholarship committee, and based on the qualifications, what each scholarship is looking for as far as eligibility, they will put you in line to be reviewed for all open opportunities. Scholarships awarded on a competitive basis. Scholarships are not guaranteed. This last year, we issued 95 scholarships, totaling just under $900,000 to current and new students coming in starting this year. So there is opportunity there. Really, the only we usually say the only guarantee in regards to scholarships is that if you don't fill out the scholarship application, you won't be reviewed for a scholarship. So we do need a scholarship application because every year it kind of happens that, through the admissions process, we review students and we see, that they're, a stellar student, and we kind of have an idea, well, they would probably be a good fit for this scholarship. And then we send out information as far as filling out the scholarship application and reminders, but sometimes that application just never gets completed. And so that student that doesn't have the opportunity to be reviewed for a scholarship they may qualify for because they never completed the application. So it's definitely something to watch for once admitted. You'll want to fill out that application. Because I think we all agree free money is the best money. Any money we don't have to pay back is the way to go. And the scholarship application probably takes 20, 25 minutes at most to fill out. So just a little bit of time to be able to be reviewed. So what we also have that we can provide for you to take a look at is this link, and I'm gonna email out the slide deck after the presentation, so you'll have access to this link. But this link allows you to explore different external scholarship opportunities. So it links to multiple different scholarship search engines, things of that nature. And they're usually listed out by different criteria. So searching for citizenship-based criteria, minority and underserved populations, applicant-specific criteria, state and federal aid, scholarships based on financial need, and kind of scholarships based on discipline, area of study. A lot of external scholarships go unfunded just because folks don't find them. We can make sure we get this information to you so you can kind of take a look and explore. And these external scholarships, these aren't tied to UNMC. So if, let's say, you're applying to multiple schools, you end up going to another school, some of these scholarships would still be a fit for you because this is based on you and not what the school has available. And then, as I talked about a little bit about assistantship, student worker positions. So PhD programs are funded through assistantship. And where it says PhD program is typically funded through assistantship, we do have students apply for PhD that let us know that they don't require an assistantship because they're funding the program in some other way. For example, if you are a UNMC employee and you want to take the PhD program, we have tuition remission that covers 15 credit hours a year for being an employee. So some have just external funding that's already taken care of, so they're not on assistantship, but typically offer of an assistantship comes with your PhD offer. And then master students, as I mentioned, can apply for assistantships and student worker positions. The positions post July 1st. Once you're admitted to the program, one of the programs, close to July 1st, you're going to receive information for us in regards to a student account and Handshake. Handshake is just the site where positions are posted. So you'll get a student account for that, so that way you can log in and you can search for open positions, and you apply for those positions just like applying for a job. And then, so this is the contact information. So for our College of Public Health, again, I'm Eric, so that's my direct contact information. Kimberly Davis is also in our admissions office. You got her contact information there as well. So from here, we'll open it up for questions, and I'll start with the questions that we have in the chat here. It says, first question, do you prefer a CV or a resume, or just whatever fits your experience best? I would say typically whatever fits your experience best. I would say the main one that probably a resume would outweigh a CV is anybody who's applying for our Doctor of Public Health Practice program, because one of the main requirements for that program is 3 years of public health practice work experience. So it's probably easier to relay that kind of on the resume based on what they're looking for. But for the most part, CV or resume, either one is fine, whatever fits best for you. Is there any specific the next question, is there any specific format I should follow when naming my document? Personal statement? No, there's not a specific format that you need for that, because when you load it into Sophos, whatever you name the document, we actually don't see that when it comes through to us. When the application is submitted to us, for us, it's just in a section that says your personal statement, and then we have access to the document. So whatever naming convention, you should be fine. Do you know how many assistantship positions are generally available, and are they available to online MPH students? That's a great question. So for master students, depending on the year, 3 to 6, be honest, for master students. And online MPH, I will say typically they are for on-campus students. Depending on where the online student lives, there could potentially be a possibility, because with an assistantship, you kind of become an employee of UNMC for the assistantship. Based on that, for someone who is not in Nebraska to get an assistantship, they have to be in a state that is considered a comparable state when it comes to employment laws, tax laws, things of that nature. And we have a list of states that are comparable states, and it's kind of half and half. There's like half are, half are not. So if you're interested in knowing if you're living in one of the comparable states, you can just shoot me an email. Let me know where you're at, and I can look up the list and let you know if it's a possibility. But I will say also, depending on the type of work that assistantship requires, that position posted requires, a lot of cases it is on campus. But I've been here 7 years. I know of a couple of remote that have gotten them based on where they're living. So. When does the admissions committee begin the review of completed SOFIS applications for the PhD program? And what is the typical notification window for offers? Great question. It's going to depend on the PhD program. Basically, typically, for the majority, most of them have priority deadlines for funding consideration ranging between like January 1st and February 1st. So depending on that PhD program, whenever their priority deadline is, that's when they will start their initial reviews for students that they're considering for funding opportunities. Usually those reviews, uh, month and a half to 2 months is when admissions offers start coming out. Um, Probably a month and a half to get for them to reach out to the folks that they want to interview, and then from there, another couple weeks after the interviews, to make the admissions decisions. So typically, our PhD programs are going to offer admissions March, April, in that ballpark. Um, and then same question in regards to MPH. MPH is a little different. MPH we review on a rolling basis. For MPH, depending on whether you're applying for spring or fall. So spring, we admit MPH for online only. Fall, we do online and on campus. So if you're submitting, say now for spring, that application deadline is October 1st. Let's say you submitted an application today, it's complete. It'll go to the review committee. And then typically 2 to 3 weeks, you will have an admissions decision. If you're submitting for fall, they start reviewing fall applications starting in January, and then they go on a rolling basis from there. So really around January 15th is when they start reviewing for fall. And then 2 to 3 weeks after they start reviewing, you'll have an admissions decision. So once we have a completed application, and this is for any of the programs, once we have a completed application and it's forwarded to that particular review committee, you will get a confirmation email from us letting you know that your application has been forwarded to the review committee, and it'll give you an estimated time frame on when to expect a decision. For the MPH program, you're going to typically get an email telling you to allow up to 4 weeks for an admissions decision. It typically does not take that long. The only time I've seen it take up to 4 weeks is if it's in that sweet spot of they have got tons to review. But typically it's 2 to 3. Are international students eligible for those scholarships? Yes. We scholarship availability. So filling out the scholarship application, domestic and international students are have scholarship availability through that scholarship application. And this year we gave scholarships to both domestic and international. So that's not a problem at all. How does the admissions committees for the PhD and biostatistics program view applicants with a background in economics and statistics? Is such a background a strong fit for the typical academic and research profile of the admitted PhD student based on your experience? I was, yeah, I mean, not looking at the specific experience, but in those realms that you're talking about, yes, I've seen it. It can definitely be a good fit for the program. And one thing that I will mention based on that question too, and when because this session is being recorded, and I mentioned I'm going to send out the slide deck. In the email I send out, what I'm also going to mention is I'm going to give you guys a link to our events page, because that question would be a great question for our biostatistics faculty. And we have all of our departments are in September and early October are going to be doing virtual open houses where the faculty are going to be there to talk about their research, things of that nature, and ask questions specifically geared towards their programs. So Dr. Christopher Wickman is our graduate program director over that biostatistics program. And he's the one that's going to be running that open house with biostatistics. So he can go into a lot more detail than I can and kind of exactly what they're looking for. But based on just your question, yeah, those backgrounds can be a strong fit for that program. And let's see here. Um, does applying early increase your chances for scholarship for international students, or does it matter? So for um, it, I would say applying early doesn't really help, but you can apply too late. So basically, like if you're applying for MPH, all the MPH application, it'll mention a priority deadline of February 15th for scholarship consideration. That doesn't mean that if you apply after February 15th, you won't be considered for a scholarship. Our scholarship committees start meeting each year in April, and they meet monthly. So they'll meet in April, they'll meet in May, they'll meet in June until all scholarships are decided and awarded. They typically start announcing scholarships starting in June, and then they'll have some more announced in July. And we literally had the last couple just announced for this upcoming fall just a couple days ago. But so they start meeting in April. So I would say it doesn't matter whether it's domestic or international, but if you're applying for fall, if you can have an application in before February 15th, the reason we set that date is it's as a suggested date is because if you get your application in by then, that gives us enough time to get to the review committee, have them make an admissions decision, communicate that to you, and then get you access to the scholarship application before the committee starts meeting in April. So I'd say probably, in that, if you're applying for fall before February 15th, if you're applying for spring, they will still do scholarship reviews in spring. Spring scholarship opportunity is limited just because it's in the middle of an academic year. So there is some there, but fall is our biggest scholarship opportunity. Does a PhD in epidemiology require prior experience? I'm an international student and will complete my MPH at the University of Oklahoma in May 27. Will I be required to take an English language proficiency test when applying for? You will not need to take the English proficiency test because you're getting you'll have a degree from University of Oklahoma. So that allows us to waive the TOEFL. And I mean, as far as requiring prior experience, as far as like work experience, things of that nature, PhD does not. The Doctor of Public Health Practice does because it's a practice-based program. So PhD, what is going to help you mainly with a PhD is when you're applying, you're going to want to highlight as much research experience as you have. I typically recommend also as you're applying for those getting ready to apply for those PhD programs, reach out to us. We can make sure we get you the bios of all of our faculty in those departments, so you can kind of take a look at their research interest and kind of have that idea faculty members that match up with yours, because No matter what school you're applying to as PhD program, that's one of the main things you obviously want to look at is, are the faculty who possibly mentoring you matching up with your research interest? And are you going to be able to concentrate on the areas you want to concentrate on? Um, and then from that, those bios we give you get has the direct contact information for those faculty members also. So you can feel free to reach out to them, ask questions, kind of start to build those relationships as you're going through the application process. But with the PhDs, definitely highlight as much research experience as you've got. If you happen to have any publications or helped on any publications, you'll wanna mention those, things of that nature. So those are kind of the things that is as much of that as you can show as far as the quote experience is going to be most helpful. What makes someone outstanding during an MPH application? Um, Great question. So basically, first thing, one of the first things that stands out in that personal statement is why public health and why that specific concentration. Being able to explain, what is your passion about public health? Because one thing that is common amongst all of our departments and every faculty member we have. They're very passionate about public health. Obviously, but public health is their life. So being able to relay what that passion is. And I usually speak to the things that are outside of your typical, okay, well, did you do well in a previous program, GPA, all of that. Because when we're reviewing, we do a holistic review. So everything we say for an MPH program will say we look for a 3.0 or above in your bachelor's degree. The GPA is not an automatic disqualifier because other aspects can help to strengthen an application with someone who may not have a 3.0. So basically what can help being able to relay why public health, why that specific concentration, what your detailed career goals are, why is public health your passion, and that self-assessment of why you feel you're ready for graduate level coursework. um, Excuse me. And then things that can also help strengthen an application. Work experience is not required for the MPH program, but it can it can help to strengthen an application. And when I talk work experience, I'm not necessarily talking about just working a full-time job in public health, but it's like any internships that you could possibly do, volunteer work, shadowing, any like some folks take advantage of summer undergraduate programs, like summer undergraduate research programs, things of that nature. So anything like that can also help to strengthen an application. But I would say if anybody is looking kind of to talk through like their personal situation, and here's my portfolio, this is what I would be submitting. Is there anything I can do to strengthen? Reach out to us. We have those conversations all the time because it's kind of we can talk in generalities here, but being able to like talk directly to you and go through like, take a look at, your previous transcripts and, your experience and all that, and then help you to think through that personal statement to kind of put your best foot forward. That's what we're here for. We're more than happy to help with any of that. So what other questions do you guys have? You can feel free to pop a question in the chat. If you want to unmute and ask a question, you can feel free to do that. Okay, and then once again, like I said, this session was recorded, so I will send out the recording to everybody, so you've got that in case there's something you wanted to take a look at again. Also make sure you've got the slides. Let's see. Another question. Is the MPH in epidemiology STEM designated? Epidemiology is one of the STEM programs. So um, we have 8 concentrations in our MPH program. STEM concentrations are epidemiology, biostatistics, environmental occupational health, and population health informatics. Those are our 4 STEM concentrations. Our other 4, health promotion, maternal child health, um, emergency, um, emergency preparedness, and administration and policy, those are not. So, but epidemiology, yes, is. Um, STEM designation just means it's a STEM-based program. So um, so basically, where STEM designation becomes important, especially for international students, uh, basically international students have the opportunity to take advantage of OPT, and I always forget exactly what it stands for, but it's basically work training after the program so they get up to 12 months on that. If the program is STEM, that can increase by another 24 months. Um, so, and the next question about supplemental application, no, we do not have a supplemental application. Whether you're applying through SOFAS, Hamcast, or SOFAS Express, depending on the program you're applying for, that is the only application you need to do for us. We do not have a supplemental. Any other questions I can help with? Okay, so if no one else has any other questions, again, my contact information is there on the screen. Please do not hesitate to reach out for anything that we can help with, anything you can do, anything we can do. I will email out. The email will probably come out tomorrow morning with the recording, the slides, and also a link to our events page so you can kind of take a look at the different open houses we have for the different departments. That way you can see if there are any other sessions that you want to join. So other than that, again, I appreciate your time for this evening, and hope you guys enjoy the rest